What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Hill Shadows podcast. I'm your host, Jeremiah. With me, as always, is my beautiful wife, Ashley.
Hey!
And if you like the strange and paranormal, please hit that subscribe button. That's the type of content we cover here. And last week, we did our follow-up episode about actual encounters with gnomes. That's right. The little small creatures with the red pointy hats that people have statues of in their gardens. They're real, and people are seeing them. People are seeing them. And I got some good stuff to share with you guys, and I know Ashley has a couple things.
Not gnome related.
Not gnome related.
I am, however, quite fascinated with that whole
It's very interesting.
subject.
However, the information available on it is quite limited. So what I've been doing is searching like strange encounters, and I've been looking through them by individual states.
Okay.
So I found some cool stuff like that. And the state I'm going with tonight is Alabama. I don't know much about Alabama, but it sounds like a place where some stuff will probably go down, right?
In the hills.
Down in the hills.
As much as in Kentucky, I guess.
Yeah, in Alabama. Yeah, we're in Kentucky.
Mine is not.
And before I get
one
started, I want to
place.
I want to say thank you and welcome to our new subscribers, and hello to all of our normal subscribers that have been here since the start. We appreciate you guys. We're glad to have you here with us. And if you guys have any encounters you'd like to share with us, you can send those to us at hillShadowsKy@yahoo.com. And we would be glad to share your encounter. We don't have to share your name, you know, just whatever you guys want to do. Contact us. We'd love to hear from you guys. That's hillShadowsKy@yahoo.com. And I got a few things about UFOs and the and that type of encounter tonight. And I actually have some sounds that were recorded, I believe, in Alabama. And I'm just gonna get to those starting off because I found this pretty interesting.
Well, shouldn't you read the story first?
It's very brief, okay?
Okay, so read it.
I have two stories, two encounters, and this thing, right? And this came out of West Alabama. And as always, we'll leave the links to any of these down in the description so you guys can check them out as well. Hopefully everybody's doing well this weekend. We're getting back on track, coming back from Christmas break, and getting back in the rhythm of things, and it's kind of taxing on me in my older age. I'm 43 now, and I'm just not.
That's not even older age.
It seems like it to me. It is for me. It's my oldest age yet, right? Like right now is as old as I've ever been. I'm not getting any younger, man. I know I need all the sleep I can get at 43. I don't really feel like I can get it though. Anyway, I got this little brief one, and this one has a sound clip with it. I'll let you guys check that out. It's very brief. Okay. It's titled West Alabama Couple Freaked After Encounter with Creature in Forest. I'll just read this whole article. Did you know that Alabama, along with Georgia, are the top states for Bigfoot sightings? An Alabama newspaper, the Geneva Reaper, reportedly put a photo of Bigfoot on their front page years ago. It's hard to find a copy. I've tried multiple times, but I've heard from many who claim it did happen. Last week, when the weather was a bit nicer, Megan and Jason Williams from Chipley, Florida, were camping near Payne Lake Okmulgee Wildlife Management in Hell County. The couple had been camping many times, according to Melissa. We know what we're doing, but this freaked us out really, really bad. Well, it would freak me out as well. The first night after they set up camp, they stayed up later than planned. Around 2 a.m., they heard some very strange sounds coming from the woods and darkness. The sounds didn't last very long, but the following night, the sounds were louder and more disturbing. They recorded the sound on a smartphone. You're about to hear what they recorded and decide for yourself what you're hearing. So here you go. I'm going to let you guys hear this. Put my headphones to the microphone.
Is that necessary? It might be too loud.
Nah, I checked it. Okay, I'm going to let Ashley hear that because, here, you want me to put the headphones on? Because you guys could hear it, but she couldn't hear it really well, so I'm going to let her check that out really quick. It's a very weird sound. I don't believe it's a bobcat, and I'll say why in just a moment.
I could hear you talking over everything.
Well, you could hear me talking as well, yeah. What do you think?
It sounds like what you would imagine a Bigfoot to
Right.
sound like, right?
And to go on, I know bobcats can scream and make sounds that freak people out. I do not believe this is a bobcat. The second night was louder and more prolonged. They also had the audio from the second night. It's basically more of the same, so I'm not going to play it again. But yeah, it says that is just weird. Is it hurt? Is it some kind of mating call? What is the sound coming from? Better yet, what creature is making that sound? So yeah, I will put the link to this down in the description if you guys want to check this out. Pretty strange recording coming out of West Alabama. This is about a year old. It was published in December 21st in 2021. And now my next one is something I found really interesting. I can't believe I haven't heard of this.
Okay.
It's strange to encounter, to come across these odd UFO encounters and to have not heard about them as much as I'll look into this stuff. Now this one, there's a lot on this Reddit thread. I found this one on Reddit, and it's got the sources and everything, and it looks like it's gonna be a weird story. I'll wait till I share these on the podcast to check them out. But yeah, unless you want to go, I'll go ahead and get into this one.
Oh, is this your last one?
No, I have two more. Yeah, I have two more.
I mean, I can read this little thing real quick. It's only going to take a second.
Yeah, go ahead, because this one's kind of a little long.
Again, I do this often, but this is just an article that has several different incidents with
occurrences. Yes.
UFOs.
All right, yeah, that's kind of the same topic I'm on tonight as well. So.
Okay. This one was just the Exeter incident. I could be saying that completely wrong. It's EXETER, Exeter incident. Anyways, on September 3rd, 1965, one of the most famous UFO events of all time occurred in Exeter, New Hampshire. As with the Hill incident, this was also turned into a 1966 bestseller by John G. Fuller called Incident at Exeter. Fuller reports that a policeman patrolling Route 101 just after midnight stopped to check on a woman parked beside the road. The breathless woman claimed that a flying object with red flashing lights had been chasing her. A few hours later, an 18-year-old man arrived at the police station and claimed that while hitchhiking along Route 150, he'd seen a line of 5 bright lights over a house about 100 feet from where he stood. He said the lights moved out over a large field and disappeared and reappeared behind the tree line several times. After driving to the site with the young man, the same policeman witnessed the lights, as did another officer who arrived a short time later. Over the weeks that followed, authorities received about 60 reports of UFO sightings near Exeter. Debunkers have claimed that the described light patterns would match those on an Air Force KC-97 refueling plane. But officially, the Exeter sightings remain a mystery. Yeah.
Interesting.
I thought it was
that is, yeah. That's a lot of sightings for that one incident.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah, this one I was going to talk about is John Womack's trippy encounter.
Okay.
On board a UFO. This sounds really interesting. It's kind of out there, but you know we're all aware that these paranormal things all seem pretty out there when you're discussing them. So it's likely that we've never seen any of the stuff we've heard about, right? So I'm gonna get into this. A 3-foot ball of fire dropped into the road several feet in front of John Womack's car. He followed it until it rolled into a meadow. When he stopped and got out, it rose and disappeared, and a huge silver object, like a disc with shallow upper and lower domes, appeared instead. 150 foot in diameter and 50 foot high, it was surrounded by a yellowish blue glow. A beam of light moved slowly toward the ground and spread out on reaching it, and the UFO began to descend. As Womack retreated, a beam of red light struck him in the face. He woke up aboard the UFO, sitting in a padded chair with a metal helmet on his head connected to a giant computer machine. Initially, he thought he was dreaming, but he soon realized that everything around him was real. In the room were intricate-looking devices and three sorts of beings, two leaders with noseless faces and mouths like porpoises, three giants at least 8 foot tall with hairy torsos and brutal-looking faces, and six 5 foot tall creatures with flipper feet,
Oh,
six crab-like arms, two antennae,
Jeez.
and beards, whose bodies were covered with greenish, warty lumps and whose faces wore a grinning expression.
It's a reptilian.
A large TV screen covered one wall. One leader spoke to the witness by means of a translating machine, a small box-like device connected to the computer, telling him that they are beings with emotions just like humans, that he would not be harmed, and shook his hand. He was then told that demons are responsible for all evil and suffering. The UFO knots use a pill that expels them. John was given a small white pill that instantly almost dissolved in his mouth. After swallowing what was left of the pill, he suddenly felt immense happiness and positive emotions. Aliens said that he was experiencing a scientific exorcism and the purest life experience free from demons, with only love and joy left inside his mind. After being put at ease, John started talking with the leader to learn more about the aliens. He was told that their planet is 40 years distant. They live on food pellets. Their ships are propelled by solar energy. They have been studying the Earth for several thousand years. He also saw a strange planet with octopus-like tentacles and growing out of a pot. It appeared to be half animal. Its trunk was about 3 feet thick and had hanging yellow balls of flowers and an orange crown on top similar to a giant honeycomb. Some of the beings seemed to play with this plant, walking close to it and then running away from its tentacles. The leader aliens said that the giants and the crab-like aliens were rescued by them from extinction. The witness was taken on a tour of the ship and then given a view of the alien solar system. They said that humans are interesting to study, but violent, miserable, and greedy. They said that the American government is evil and selling humanity out to demons, and that Earth's only salvation is inventing our own anti-demon pills and using solar energy. Aliens said that they are watching us since the times of Moses. When asked, they said that they can't help humanity themselves because they would need to use force. They said that their time here on Earth is limited and they will have to soon leave. Aliens also showed John a device they used to see complete atomic structures of any object. The other device was used to see any living being's internal organs. John saw many other machines, but did not understand what the aliens were using them for, even when they tried to explain it to him. The leader asked John if he would like to travel with them and motioned to sit on a weird chair. When he did, a conical-shaped object descended on John. Light began flashing around him, and he heard a loud tornado-like sound. He saw a multicolored world revolving around a giant sun. Some of the planets were icy and covered with snow, while others, closer to the sun, were more tropical with exotic forests. The light became smaller and smaller. He then woke up on Earth again. He came to himself sitting on the ground and saw the UFO leave as it shot out of his view.
What?
Yeah, that's the end of that one. And that's the John Womack's encounter that he had on board a UFO. And
Have you done any more research on this?
this is the first I've heard of this. When I came across this
Let me write
evening,
this down. I have to look
this
this
is the
up
first time that I had heard the name John Womack.
Womack? Like
Womack. W-O-M-A-C-K.
Oh, just W-O.
Yeah.
John Womack.
Yeah.
All right. I have to look this up.
Also, guys, we're currently working on setting up a place to shoot video and kind of will be upping the production value of the podcast a little bit. Probably nothing crazy, but we'll have a little something set up to do, and that's just something we'll be doing hopefully next week. We've been trying to. We've ran into a few problems, but we're getting all the kinks sorted out, and next time when we do it, we're going to be doing it from there on.
Hopefully. Don't say we.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything for certain, but yeah, that's the plan. That is the plan. But that is my first encounter that I wanted to share with you guys tonight.
Okay, well, let me do this little one real quick.
I do have one other one I want to share before we get out of here, but Ashley has some things she wants to talk about as well, and one of the things I found very interesting, and I didn't know about the point system you were talking to me about earlier.
Well,
I thought that was kind of interesting.
I didn't write that down.
Oh, you weren't going to go over the point system? She did have something she was going to share that
Well, yeah. So
was
when
like some type of point system.
you know, people have
with
heard, I'm
UFO
sure, of
sightings.
like encounters of the first kind, second
Right,
kind, or third
yeah.
kind. Well, each one of those, like depending on like details of each event or incident, is rated on a point system. When you see like a craft like that's within 500 feet of your view, or within 500 feet of you, it's rated 1 on a scale, and then 3 being the highest is when you actually see a being. And I can't remember dude's name, Hynek or something. He was something in the military.
Yeah.
When they would also like, I can't remember exactly, something with the details, but they could deduct points as well.
Yeah, like incidents you were saying could have certain points.
Which really makes it, I mean, you could, I don't know, I just think that's stupid. You're going to take points away for...
Right, yeah.
I don't know.
That doesn't make a lot of sense.
I mean, I guess I understand that if you think someone's completely making things up, but I know that there's shit out there flying around that we don't know what it is. I've seen it. I've seen several.
Yeah, we've seen
One,
the Black Triangle.
Very close. Yeah. Incredibly close.
I'll tell you what, the story I shared, John Womack, there was one thing in there that really struck me that we talked about recently, we heard about, and that's the Carl Higdon case, where the pills were floated over to him.
Yeah.
And then you got this guy, John Womack, also talking about...
But that was for food.
He
asked if he was hungry.
Was it though? Because he took it and he woke up on a spaceship, so...
Yeah, but...
I think he could have ate some Earth food
the thing,
and did it the old-fashioned
what was his name? Ozo asked him if he was hungry, and
but
the
he
pills
also
floated to him.
took the elk from dude, right? He kept saying, "You took my elk."
Yeah, there was 5 elk behind him on the craft.
Right. So anyway, these things, evidently aliens are into pills, guys. I don't know.
No, that's their way for sustenance.
I guess, yeah, it's that's what the guy said, is they live on pellets, right?
I mean, that would make sense, right?
So,
pellet.
So they put their nutrition into tablets and probably...
I can't remember...
They probably don't have time to be consuming any kind of waste.
No, do you remember...
Right?
There was another incident where... I can't remember who it was.
The Carl Higdon case is covered in the new Missing 411 documentary, The UFO Connection.
I'm not talking about that.
I was just saying for reference.
Well, there was one where someone, they saw a being and it was like eating this, like, how did they describe it? Like, almost like a cracker, but it wasn't like, cracker. It was some other type of material. I can't remember, like foamy or something.
Yeah.
And the alien, like, telepathically, told him that it was for sustenance.
So do you want me to finish up with my last
I'll read
story,
this
or you want to
thing
go
real
ahead
quick.
with yours real quick, and then I'll get into this?
Okay, this was the Allagash abductions in 1976. Again, it's from the same article as before. It's the newengland.com. But this is what it says. In August of 1976, according to their own accounts, 4 Massachusetts college students were canoeing on Maine's Allagash Wilderness Waterway and saw an unidentified object in the sky. They described the sighting to a ranger the next day, but weren't taken seriously. It was suggested, in fact, that they had seen a searchlight that was being used to celebrate the grand opening of a hardware store in Millinocket. The students continued their trip and did not talk much about their encounter until years later, when one of them, Jim Weiner, started having seizures. Weiner claimed to have had visions of humanoid beings levitating above his bed, poking him with needles. Under hypnosis, all 4 men described small gray aliens taking them aboard a spacecraft and performing medical examinations on them. The 1993 book, The Allagash Abductions, made momentary media darlings out of the quartet who appeared on the Joan Rivers Show and Unsolved Mysteries. In 2016, however, one of the men, Charlie Rack, said that although the group really did see unidentified flying objects twice during their canoe trip, the rest of the story had been made up. But his former friends dispute this. Yeah. So why would somebody, one of four people, later say that it was made up?
That's weird.
That someone contacted
Unless,
him. You know what I mean?
they were
Like trying
coerced to say
yeah.
it for some reason.
It would have to be. Why would the other three hold on to it?
Yeah, that's strange.
Like they're going to continue to stand on their story.
And this was from what did you say? 70 something?
It was, what did it say? Oops, I went too far. 76.
It's interesting because my last story was from the 70s, and this next one I'm getting ready to read is also pertaining to a encounter that took place in the 70s.
Okay.
Now, this is a pretty long article, so I'll go ahead and get into it, I guess, while we're on the UFO thing. This one is, I think it's on strangeoutdoors.com, but I think the article can be found a few different places, but I will definitely put the link in the description. It's called Strange UFO Encounters in Missouri with Terry Lovelace. And this was, I guess, he was at Whitman Air Force Base, maybe. Whiteman, I'm sorry. I guess that's how you say it. Terry Lovelace, an ex-assistant attorney general for the state of Vermont until his retirement, covered an incident near Whiteman Air Force Base, Missouri, in his book, Incident at Devil's Den. And here you got, about Terry Lovelace. I am 64. I spent 6 years in the USAF. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and a law degree from U of M School of Law, TMC campus. I passed the Michigan bar exam on my first attempt and was in private practice until I entered government service for the U.S. territory of American Samoa. I was an assistant attorney general there for 2 years and general counsel for their hospital, LBJ Tropical Medical Center, for another 2. I was elected by my peers as president of the American Samoa Bar Association. Lastly, I was an assistant AG for the state of Vermont, where I sat on their board of medical practice until retiring medically in January 2012. I've been married for 42 years. My wife and I were active Lions Club members and volunteered our time and efforts for the mission to stop blindness. We have 2 adult children who live near us in Dallas. I've never abused substances or been arrested, but for those events, my life has been ordinary in all regards.
Extremely credible.
Right. His story from the 1970s. I grew up in urban St. Louis City. After graduating from high school in 1973, I joined the USAF and was trained as a medic EMT. I was stationed permanently at Whiteman Air Force Base for the next 5.5 years. Whiteman Air Force Base was a SAC base, home to a squadron of nuclear-armed B-52s. It was also the home of the 351st Strategic Missile Wing, with dozens of missile silos spread across rural western Missouri. This area was very sparsely populated in the 70s. The air base is a half-day drive north of Devil's Den. I drove an ambulance for the base hospital and worked graveyard shift of 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. My partner was a younger airman, first class, I'll refer to as Toby. Together, we were first responders to incidents and injuries on base or any of the missile silos. Toby was from urban Flint, Michigan. He was a 20-year-old kid with a gift for mathematics. He hoped to attend the University of Michigan and study astronomy. Coincidentally, I attended law school at U of M years later. Toby was an amateur astronomer, and on most warm evenings we sat on the ambulance ramp in lawn chairs and watched the sky, waiting the crash phone to ring. In January 1975, a crash phone rang about 2 a.m. A missile technician servicing an ICBM fell inside a silo designated Kilo 5. The dispatch was unusually thin on facts, and the radio was unusually quiet without the routine chatter. I drove the ambulance while Toby navigated. It was 18 miles to Kilo 5 in a desolate area in the middle of a soybean field. We arrived at a chaotic scene. A dozen security police cars and 30 guys with M16s ran around looking up. I found a captain in charge. He ordered me to park the ambulance and to stay put. Then Toby noticed a matte black diamond-shaped object hovering 20 or so feet over Kilo 5. It was as big as a full-size van. I looked for wires or some explanation as to how this thing could just sit in midair. Mentally, it was difficult to process. We watched this thing sit for about 15 minutes, then it just shot off to the east from a dead stop to the speed of a bullet without accelerating. We were debriefed and our reports were rewritten. Our CO told us the object was an experimental helicopter and top secret. We knew back then he was full of shit and had no idea what we saw. We were sternly warned not to talk about it and were asked to surrender any drawings we may have made. 2 years later, my friend Toby are still working the night shift at the ER. One night, Toby suggested we go on a camping trip. I enjoyed wildlife photography and had a new camera I wanted to try. Photography was not allowed on the base. Toby and I were both city kids. Neither one of us had ever been camping in our lives. There were plenty of national forest campgrounds all around us, but Toby convinced me the long drive to Devil's Den was worth it because it offered, one, a high plateau where he could stargaze without light pollution, and two, I could photograph wildlife and scenery. He was against staying at the park's campground, comparing it to camping in a parking lot in the woods, so we trespassed deep into the nature preserve that was off limits and set up our camp on the edge of a plateau abutting a tree line. When we were 4 hours into our drive south toward the Arkansas border, I realized I left my damn camera on the kitchen counter. It was a big disappointment, but I was determined to make the best of it. We did bring our small tent, insect repellent, and sunscreen, and enough food and water for 2 overnights. On our first night, we were exhausted from a hike we took when we first arrived, a long drive, and setting up a campsite. About 9 p.m., Toby noticed 3 stars on the horizon. They made a perfect triangle. They were small at first and moved in perfect unison. It became obvious this was one solid object and not 3 independent lights orchestrated to move in perfect formation. We watched it ascend and grow closer and much larger until it was directly over top of our campsite. We noticed that it passed through a star field. It blotted them until it had moved past. Then they would blink back on, so it was one solid object. It was odd that at first this thing in the sky made us anxious, but that soon dissipated. We noticed the whole forest was now dead silent when an hour earlier it had been alive with crickets and tree frogs. While this thing was over our heads, we became abruptly disinterested. We were also suddenly drowsy, not tired, but almost sedated. At midnight, we just decided to get in the tent and go to sleep. The apathy puzzles me to this day. I woke up at 3 a.m. to brilliant multicolored lights, white, yellow, and orange, illuminated the inside of our tent. Through a rear small net window, I saw the forest behind us was lit up like a night game at the ballpark. I noticed my clothing and boots were all askew. I pushed Toby aside so we could both look outside toward the meadow. There was an enormous UFO as large as a 5-story office building. It was a triangle with each leg being about a city block in length. It was 50 feet tall and sat stationary 30 feet over the meadow floor. There was a noise, too. It was a low bass hum or drone, not so much loud as it was powerful. It was like standing next to a running diesel train engine or a large industrial machine. We saw what I first took to be children walking around the meadow underneath the triangle. There was a column of white light about 30 feet in diameter shining down from the center of the triangle. We watched as these little people walked into the light and just dissolved one by one until they were gone. The hum stopped and the corner lights all returned to brilliant white. The white cylinder from the middle stopped and the thing rose above like a hot air balloon. It made a 1/3 clockwise rotation and continued its ascent, picking up speed until it was high in the sky and then gone. While we were apathetic earlier, now we're scared out of our wits. We abandoned our campsite and ran to the car and drove back to base. Toby left his backpack with his name and base address written inside. This is how they were able to find us so quickly. Both of us suffered severe sunburn all over our bodies. Even the soles of my feet were burned. We were terribly dehydrated and we spent a couple days in the hospital, the same hospital where we worked. While hospitalized, we were interrogated separately by 2 men in business suits. They identified themselves as special agents from the OSI. The OSI is the Office of Special Investigations. It's the investigative term of the USAF security police. I recall the older man was a major and the younger a captain. They demanded that I hand over the film that I took during the trip. I told them I left my camera at home. My wife backed up that story, but they wouldn't believe us. My car and home were searched. I was interrogated a second time at OSI headquarters. They had the mistaken belief that I had photographed this thing. God, I wish I had. My best friend began to drink. He was quickly reassigned, and we were ordered to have no contact with one another until the investigation closed. I learned that Toby began drinking heavily, was divorced, and discharged from the USAF. He died homeless on the streets of Flint in 1982. Intermittently, over the next 10 years, I was plagued with dreadful nightmares about that night. At my wife's suggestion, I began to keep a journal of my nightmares. I kept a pen and paper by my bedside and did my best to document each nightmare before it evaporated. I think that helped me. Ever since 1977, I am comfortable being outside in open spaces, especially after dark. I sleep with the light or the television on. I keep a loaded 380 by my bedside table and a high-intensity flashlight. I am uncomfortable around elderly Asian women for some odd reason. I feel anxious at the mall when we walk past a window display with naked mannequins in the window. Something bad happened to us at Devil's Den. My heart goes out to the family of this young man who went missing in August of last year. There is a postscript. I became a non-competitive runner in 1980, and I ran until I had heart problems in 2005. When I ran, there was a spot on my right leg the size of a $50 that went completely numb every time I passed the 2-mile mark. Every time, it would remain numb for 30 or so minutes. In 2012, I had an x-ray of my leg following an accident. If you look at the x-ray to the very top and far right, you'll see a metal object the size of a postage stamp. It is directly over what I call my numb spot. There is no scar to indicate the site where this thing entered my body. According to a radiologist, absent a scar, I would have to have been born with this thing in my leg. The x-ray brought with it intrusive thoughts and terrible images from 1977. After a 40-year hiatus, nightmares about 1977 have returned and still disturb my sleep.
Wow.
The book relating to the story, Incident at Devil's Den, a true story by Terry Lovelace, can be bought at Amazon. That is quite the tale right there.
Yeah.
That
I
is,
fully believe it.
how have we not? That's two amazing encounters I've shared. I've never heard either of those names.
The name Terry Lovelace sounds extremely familiar, but I don't recall
This
story.
information should be more readily available. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like
how did the military know about them seeing something? Was it because they were at the hospital and they asked what happened and they told them the story? Because it didn't really specify, did it?
Well, they came back, right?
Yeah, they ran back. And he said he left his backpack there, which had, the friend left his backpack, which had, information and everything in it.
About that. Let's see.
I don't think he said.
So, let's see. I'm trying to see how they ended up.
They went to the hospital saying they were burnt, even the bottom of their feet.
So, while hospitalized, let's see. They were scared. They abandoned their campsite, drove back to the base. Toby left his backpack with his name and base address. That's how they were able to find him so quickly. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if maybe they could tell that they were shaken up. Probably
trying to describe how they got the sunburns.
Right, yeah.
And why
I would say
that's crazy.
That got them interviewed by the men in the suits. Sounds like a typical case of the Men in Black, basically, like a military division of it.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting encounter.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And you do have another one, right?
Yeah, but I mean, after hearing this, I feel like.
That's a long one, though.
Yeah, but it's very detailed. I like that.
It's pretty detailed.
I do have one.
Yeah, I'm anxious to hear yours.
It is absolutely nothing like
that. One UFO encounter is no greater than another, man. Just some people see more details and have more experiences arise out of one encounter, and other people's encounters are kind of like mine and yours. You see one fly overhead, there's not much else to it.
Right.
I think it would be interesting to see the beings being transported up into the beam me up Scotty type stuff. That's crazy, man. So basically, the technology exists that we could travel to any location without having to spend money on gas, without using all these resources, and we're just not being exposed to the technology because it's not financially beneficial to the people that make the money, basically.
Right. All right.
Which is garbage. I mean, if they had this technology that they had access to in the 70s, they probably had access to it the whole time, man. It's been around forever.
Right, but like I think it's odd that before that, like he saw the diamond shaped craft or whatever.
Right. Yeah, like that happened like we're very recent to that, right?
Yeah. Huh.
And another thing about this that kind of ties into the whole like missing 411 high strangeness is the Devil's Den. They say like a lot of places that are named like Devil something.
Yep.
There's
Things
some
happen.
strange occurrences there.
Wow.
But yeah, they said the 70s were crazy, man. I mean,
yeah, with encounters, there was a lot.
With encounters and bell bottoms, like it was a crazy time. There was a lot going on in the 70s. There was a lot happening.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to read this little thing. It's not very long because it wasn't really long.
That's cool, incident. Man. We're on the UFO highway tonight. So
this was in 65.
65?
Mm-hmm. And it's the
That's crazy, man. It seems like
1965 Valensole UFO encounter. Valensole, Valensole. Valensole. Anywho, near the French village of Valensole, farmer Maurice Mass was smoking a cigarette just before starting work at 5:45 a.m. on July 1st, 1965, when an object came out of the sky and landed in a lavender field 200 feet away. Annoyed and assuming that a helicopter had made an unauthorized landing, he walked toward it. However, he soon saw it was no helicopter, but an oval-shaped structure resting on 4 legs. In front of it stood 2 figures, not quite 4 feet tall. Not in this story, but I researched this story more. He thought they were children at first. But anyways, they were not quite 4 feet tall, dressed in tight gray-green clothes. Their heads were oversized and with sharp chins. Their eyes were large and slanted, and they were making a grumbling noise. One of the beings pointed a pencil-like device at Mass, paralyzing him in his tracks. The figures entered the UFO and flew away, and the witness needed 20 minutes to recover his mobility. In its wake, the object left a deep hole and moist area that soon hardened like concrete. Plants in the vicinity decayed, and analysis found a higher amount of calcium at the landing site than elsewhere.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what, though, that it does sound like a 60s font, like UFO. It's got the legs on it. Like,
yeah.
Seems very much like something you would have seen on, like, the Jetsons or something, right?
Yep. So the Valensole case is considered one of the classic UFO reports. Investigations by official and civilian agencies confirmed Mass's sincerity and good character. Laboratory study of the affected soil and plants confirmed the occurrence of an unusual event. Subsequently, Mass confided that in the course of the encounter, he experienced some sort of communication with the entities as well.
That's awesome.
I thought it was pretty good. Very interesting. I researched it a little bit more, but the other article I found, it was more detailed. However, the way it was wrote out was like tiny, and I had to like kind of blow it up and made it really difficult, like going back and forth to try to read it. Right. And I figured I'll just do the simpler version and read it like that.
I like it, man. It's cool.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff, man. A lot of people have been having encounters with UFOs for as long as history is recorded, basically. I know one thing that I decided I would search this past week that you and I watched is police reports of cryptids, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was getting around that it was probably Bigfoot like creatures that would, I guess it could have been Dogman. There were no real sightings. It was just like
Well, there was that one.
I mean, they seen it.
Wait, did
Well, the
that one
cop
guy?
didn't.
Right.
He said that it was probably up in the trees. But he heard it.
Yeah, because he
I
wasn't
mean,
thinking of
he
looking.
found footprints. He was convinced. Like, he thought this thing was trying to eat this dude, basically.
Yeah.
This
Killed his
thing
dog.
was showing up at this man's house that lived, I guess, probably in a pretty remote location. And the police officer responds, and I think the thing was going through it'd been scratching around the side of his house or
Yeah,
something.
scratching the first time.
And I think he caught him in a
Messed up the side
building,
of his
like
house.
getting
That was
in
the
his
second
dog
time. He
food or
called
something.
again.
The second time,
Mhm.
okay. So the cop comes back, and the second time this thing was in a building, I believe, right? And the cop said that this door was completely tore off the hinges. Like, they expected to see some kind of equipment there that could have ripped the door, And
the
there was
dog
nothing.
food was like
And the dog
ripped
food had
open
been,
and
something had
everywhere.
been in the dog food. And I think the old man had said that the thing was like scraping on the side of his house,
there was
whispering.
a bit of damage. That was the last time.
Or that was the last time.
Yep.
But yeah, he called 3 different times. I don't remember what time frame the calls
It was all
occurred
within like
in.
a week and a half period.
That's what I was going to say. Probably all of them happened
wasn't
within a
long.
week period. But the police officer said that, the third time also, the dogs were gone.
Yeah, that's why he called. Because
He
the
called
dog
and
got
said
out and he
that,
killed his dog, he said.
I think they killed one of them, and then the other dog got away from him, and they got the other dog too.
That's whenever it was walking around the house, and you could hear it, and it was like almost mimicking the man.
Yeah, like
whispering.
it was trying to lure him out or something.
Yeah.
But the cop said he thought it was wanted to eat the guy.
Yeah, that's
And
crazy.
It seemed like the thing was hungry, whatever it was. So
I mean,
who knows, right?
If it was getting the dog food.
He
found the
that's
print.
creepy, man. That's creepy. And there was another one that we watched, and it was these 2 girls were home alone, and their parents were gone out of town for the evening, and they said this thing was in the house upstairs. They could hear it walking around, and the cop showed up, and
they saw the red eyes of it standing
he
upstairs.
He obviously thought maybe their friends were pranking him. They wouldn't go back in the house, so he goes in there, and sure enough, there's something in there, right? And
he jumps out of the top
story window. This dude takes off chasing it, and I mean, he's seen this thing too. He didn't see it like up close, but he got to look at it, and he was convinced.
I can't remember what he said it looked like other than the eyes.
But yeah, I was just thinking, like,
glowing
there's no telling how many calls they get about these things all the time, and
that aren't.
Probably a good percentage of them probably don't even get taken seriously in the least, enough to even send somebody to investigate. So I'm sure they run up on some weird stuff, especially in the more remote communities and stuff,
There's some strange stories out there.
But a lot of those people who live in the hills don't like to get law involved either.
That's true.
So how many cases do you think you have with people who just don't talk to anybody? Like,
I think there's way more than what is reported.
Well, yeah. Absolutely.
And there's a lot reported, so.
Well, there's a ton reported, and I mean, you would think with technology being at the stage it's currently at, it's just a matter of time before somebody gets some really, really good evidence. We were watching that video that was showcasing the list of like the top 15 weird monkeys.
Oh yeah, there's some crazy monkeys.
If you see that, our cat is trying to interfere in our podcast.
He does not like for a door to be closed.
We have a cat named Smokey, and he's a lynx point, and he complains a lot. He complains.
He's a talker.
He talks too much. But yeah, that's all I got for tonight. I mean, I don't really have anything else of UFOs, man. If you guys have any encounters, we'd love to hear from you guys. You can send those to us again at hillShadowsKy@yahoo.com. I will put that on the screen and in the description so you guys have a way to access that anytime you need it. And have a wonderful weekend. Here in Kentucky, we're having above average temperatures. It's kind of chilly out right now, but it
was 70 a couple days ago.
Yeah, it's definitely warmer than it should be right now. And we're not getting the snow we would like to be getting because I enjoy wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
It's an important time of the year. It kills bugs off. My allergies aren't as bad through the winter, so I enjoy that thoroughly. I don't like rain, and usually in the winter it's cold enough to where any precipitation we normally get would be in the form of snow. So usually the rain is not an issue for me, but all that has been very much in the forefront of everything going on in my life for this winter. So maybe in the next month we'll see some temperatures drop back down and we'll feel like winter. Maybe get rid of some bugs, because if we don't, I'm probably
You're
not
gonna
going
be
to go
ants like
outside
crazy.
this summer. I will probably just lock myself inside.
Also,
I don't
ticks
want
will
to
be horrible.
I'm
And
saying.
they were bad last
I'm
year.
saying. And what do you do in Kentucky if you're confined to indoors? There's nothing.
There's nothing when you're allowed out.
There's nothing. Yeah, but we can go
when you can
kayaking and go
Yeah,
adventuring. And
Yeah,
there's
I
plenty
can't
of
wait to
places
do-
to do that.
that this year.
But aside from that, there's literally nothing to do in Kentucky. I mean, not where we're at.
Maybe we can find
Not
some
where
cool
we're
places to go
located,
kayaking and get some footage.
We definitely will. I don't think I have uploaded any of that kayaking footage to the channel yet. But
No, remember that time we were...
we thought we heard a
kayaked?
Bigfoot knocking.
That was crazy.
Honest to
We
God,
still
we
don't know
still
what
don't
it is.
know what we heard. So I did have my camera and I was holding it up trying to get a view of whatever was making the noise. I'm
was
under the
knocking.
impression that it was a woodpecker. If I had to guess, because whatever it was, we weren't scaring. It wasn't making much noise aside from knocking. But yeah, we'll definitely be out filming this
But
spring.
it wasn't like knocking like a
It
woodpecker.
was just
typically like
constant, like.
No, it wasn't constant.
Yeah, it was.
No, it
Well,
wasn't. You better
it was
watch
like,
that footage again. There would be like minutes in between it.
Well, yeah, but it would be consistent when it would happen, like, repetitive. It was loud, like it was enough
It was
to where,
very loud. It sounded like someone like beating.
enough to get your attention, right?
Yeah,
But,
very much. I was kind of alarmed.
But yeah, we're gonna. I've just been experimenting with editing videos and stuff, and I'm actually at a point where I'm quite comfortable enough to where we can go out and get some footage this spring, and I'll be able to upload it and use it for our edits or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We'll definitely get out and do that, and be sure to share everything we
We're
do with you guys.
recording that day. I guess it was those owls that came through. Do you remember at Lake Wilgreen?
I've got a lot of footage from
It
Lake
sounded like
Wilgreen.
a gang of monkeys.
Yeah, that was crazy. So I don't think I got that on tape.
Oh, that would have been great. It was so funny.
I don't believe I did. If I did, I would not know where to get it at. But what we need to do is we need to go back out this spring and get some fresh stuff, and
Yeah.
And I will edit it as soon as we get back, so I don't misplace it or anything. Cause right up until now, really, I haven't had the storage to organize our videos the way I
Right.
need to, but we're working on getting there. So, but anyway, that's all I got for tonight. I'm gonna get out of here, I think, and get ready to shut it down, man. It's getting close to my bedtime. I think it's getting close to your bedtime.
Yeah.
It's getting
almost.
close to time to start winding down, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Time to start settling down. And we hope you guys have enjoyed the encounters we've shared with you guys tonight. As always, links in the description. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and comment. We'd love to hear from you guys. And share if you don't mind, if you did enjoy it. And we'll see you guys next weekend. Have a wonderful weekend.